Hi, everyone. My name is Linda Lyke. I teach printmaking at Occidental College, and my research involves working in mixed media printmaking. I've got in front of me here a very recent work I did for the Sycamore Glen. This is a monotype, and that's the demo that I'm going to show you today is how to do a monotype. And this image that was translated to tile and is in the Sycamore Glen, you can see. And it's called Lyke, the last universal common ancestor. And Lyke has to do with the interconnectedness of everything in the Glen, everything in the world. You see animals, night animals, day animals, the different cell formations that I've tried to interpret with my monotype process. And this took place over several weeks of working on this image. So I'm going to move over here and just show you the results of how you would work on monotype. And this is something that I teach my students. And we start very simple, which is what I'm going to try to do in a few minutes, which normally takes a couple of hours of working in class with students. But I work from, monotype means one-of-a-kind print, and that means that there's no actual matrix. However, I've designed a Fibonacci curve, and that Fibonacci curve I've cut out of a piece of Duralar, which is a flexible material, but it will hold ink. And that ink will just lay on the surface of the Duralar and can be transferred onto your monotype. Usually I work in a series of monotypes, and also as I'm lining up, I have underneath, you see imagery around this monotype, and I'm going to layer. This is what I did. I layered wet ink that I rolled onto this Duralar, and then I laid that down on top of the image that I had started before. This was done on the printing press, and we're going to do something on the press in a minute. So then I rolled the night colors. So this one is called Day and Night, and it's going to lay down right here. When you're on the press with wet ink, you have to very carefully lay down your cut shapes. But here we go. You can see that it's laid down there. And what happens is when I keep adding and layering different colors and imagery, you can see things appear and disappear. Like you see a coyote here. You see shapes that suggest amoeba or single cells. Here's a little hummingbird. Then when I run this through the press, I remove the Duralar. And there's a residue of ink there, but most of the ink has transferred. And you can see how it creates a kind of ghostly reverse Fibonacci curve underneath here. And when I remove here, you'll see a suggestion of galaxies in here as you move along the Fibonacci curve, and it's either amoeba or cells that are suggesting early life forms and the development and complexity of human life as it is now. So my recent work was shown at Center for the Arts in Eagle Rock, and it's called World on Fire. And I've done a lot of images about fire that reflect how humans have interfered with the natural processes of nature. And we really need to pay attention to it. And a lot of artists are interested in conveying these ideas and trying to spur people to action. So for this demo, I'm going to walk over here, and I have my daughter helping me, so she's actually recording, and I'm going to show you how to do monotype. So we're going to shift now to what I would teach in a classroom. And I have various tools out, brushes, scrolling tools, wooden sticks, and I'm going to draw with those after I layer ink. And this is called viscosity printing. And I've already laid down inks that these are oil-based inks. And I've laid down a rainbow effect of colors. So I'm keeping, for the purpose of the demonstration, I'm keeping very light, middle to light value inks on top here. And I'm going to show you what's called a split fountain. And this is one of the benefits of printmaking. It can be done by taking a large sprayer and rolling out color onto a glass slab until you have to keep changing the revolution of the brayer. And you see how they tend to blend and move into each other and create new colors. Roll it out onto the Duralar. And I'll keep going over it until it smooths out here. This layer of ink has been modified so it has linseed oil in it, and it makes it more viscous. So we call this viscosity. This is kind of reverse viscosity printing. So I've got wet ink here, and then I'm going to draw into it, pick up ink, and I can draw with it. And just to create some shapes that I might change later. I've got an infinity sign. And as you change your tools, you can create a thick line or a thin line. And now you can see that this is really this wooden tool from Starbucks. Thank them. We can change these tools around and cut them at different angles, but you can create different shapes with this. So I'm trying to do that right now. And also, other ways of working are to use a solvent and a brush. You can see that I'm putting the brush right into the solvent. And then I'm going to remove certain areas. So ink that I've placed down initially is going to mingle with the solvent and create more a painterly effect. And then I'm going to dry that out and remove more of that ink. So if I remove the ink all the way to the Duralar, when I lay the next layer of ink, you're going to see a transformation of this in a drastic way. So other things you can try like spritzing. Spritz a little bit of this. And I try to tell students, don't overdo something that you use, but repeat it so that you can see that you're building a repertoire of imagery that you can respond to. Here, if I use linseed oil, I can remove an area, disturb it enough that it will become semi-transparent. And then it will, as it has time to rest and reconfigure, it will smooth out. So I'm going to take a little bit off of here, but you will see this reacting in a certain way, differently from other things that I'm doing in the ink. So I might try that one other place. If you remove, at least 40% of the ink that you put down initially, you'll have a lot of change happen when you roll on the next sprayers with a different ink. That was my amazing X. It's kind of like personal iconography. So my amazing X is going to appear here, and maybe just modify this with suggestion of layers of image. So you'll see changes with this when we add the next layer of ink. And tonight I did this split fountain, which doesn't have any change in it. So it's directly ink that's been done. I've done a split fountain with, but you hear the tacky sound. That means I didn't put any linseed oil in it. Now, when I roll this ink over top of the drawing and ideally, because there's two different ink viscosities here, you have a wet viscosity and a drier viscosity. And I don't want to push hard because this is a heavy brayer, but I want to have that ink show up. And I think I'm going to change the position of it because maybe this way. Okay, we'll go this way. I've got the Duralar anchored here with a piece of tape, and I'm hoping that's going to work. And I'm just going to gently roll right into the edge there. So I'm going to gently roll over top, and you can see, I don't know if you can reach over there. Yeah, you can see how the darker, stiffer ink is laying down where I removed imagery. There's a little bit of an offset there, which means the brayer wasn't quite big enough to cover entirely over that. And then usually what I do is I tell students, when you have this kind of information on the brayer, it's like printing a newspaper. And pressing hard now, I'm going to just try to roll this off so I get all of that information down of where I've drawn before. Okay. Oops. So that's the start of something that will be attended to later. I'm going to leave this all here. And if I wanted any, right now I have color on color, but if I wanted any white area, I could go back in and draw. Normally I do maybe a little bit of drawing, but I'll just show you if I can get a white line to show up in some of this. So maybe this will look like something coming out of these interesting areas. And maybe since I started that, I might want to see if it's going to work throughout this imagery. And then we'll print it. So we're about ready to print. Let's see. I don't want to change too much because then you won't remember or see. So I've got to remove my tape here. And then, oops, carefully pick this up. And we're going to print it. So I'm going to come over here to the printing press with me. And this is a big etching press. So what I've done is I'm going to maybe print it this way. And I line it up with our 1-inch grids here so that when we lay the paper down, we'll be able to lay it down exactly where we want it. And I've got my printing paper underneath over here. Let me just grab that. Keep my hands are clean. Okay, so it's going to go like this. This paper has a decal edge. It's Arches ABA, which is a beautiful printing paper for Monotype. Now I'm just trying to figure out the lineup here. I have like 1.5 inches, a little more information, a little more paper at the bottom. And here I have 2 inches and 2 inches. So like landing an airplane, I'm floating this in to 1.5 inches, staying parallel with the lines that I've created on the grid. Drop that down. Just put a few pieces of newsprint over to protect the blankets. And then I'm going to put the blankets down, and we're going to roll this through. This is an electric press, so whenever you're using it, put your other hand behind your back so you're staying safe. You're not getting your fingers in the way. Okay, and so I'll remove these. And then just to make sure your pressure is right, I tell students, just check, hang on to this paper and check and see if your ink transferred, and it did. So this is the big reveal. This is what makes it, oh wow, there's too much pink in that, but at least you can see the dark ink. I should have removed more of the pink. I think that makes it look too sweet and syrupy. So what I'll do is I'll save my Duralar and just let this image dry on here, save the print, let it dry, and then perhaps tomorrow or a day later, I could go back in and add some different colors. Save things that I like this area, and then just add more color here reprint it, and you always can reprint it because you have a mark wherever you've made a line, which will allow you to line it up again. You see how it could line up again. Well, I'm not sure how much is going to show up here, but we'll try it. So since we've got green up there, I think I'll put him down here. And I'll do the little hummingbird. Okay, I'm gonna lay these back down. Start it up a little high. Lay these back down. So this is kind of a mixed media monotype. And again, this I should wait a day or two to try it, but in the interest of time and showing you how you can manipulate images that not to yourself. Now, you get to see how those printed. You did get a little offset also on here, but as I pick these up, you'll see some of that layering effect that I did with the earlier monotype that I showed you before. So they're kind of, now it looks sort of like a jungle. I did disrupt that pink a bit. And that's it, folks. That's all I'm going to show you until you come to the print shop and either take a workshop or a class from me. Thank you very much.